If you're a human being that exists on the planet Earth, chances are you've experienced some kind of loss in your life. And I'm not only talking about death. Although that is a significant loss that I will be touching on in this video, it's not the only type of loss I want to talk about today. Other types of losses I want to talk about, for example, are divorce, disability, immigration, loss of a friendship, a change in identity, and countless other examples of loss. In my last video, I talked about ambiguous loss and disenfranchised grief. If you're interested in those concepts, I've linked it right here and at the end of the video. In this video, I would like to talk about secondary losses, as well as the loss of the assumptive world and what that looks like. What is secondary loss and why does it matter? First, one experiences a loss, which we'll call the primary loss. Examples are divorce, death, etc., the list that I had given before. A non-exhaustive list, but it's different types of loss. After the primary loss comes secondary losses, and these can impact all areas of life. The assumptive world is how we assumed our lives would go, and a loss of the assumptive world can happen as a result of unexpected death or other loss. It can impact the trajectory of our plans and goals, change our self-image, and even our identity. Take divorce as an example of a primary loss. Secondary losses can include loss of safety and security, loss of identity, I'm a husband or I'm a wife, becomes I'm a single person now. Or a divorcee, which I know has kind of a negative connotation for some people. Loss of financial stability, income, housing, mutual friendships. How many of us have gotten a divorce and lost all the friends because the friends went with the ex-spouse? There can be a loss of in-law relationships as well, which can impact things like holidays and social gatherings. If there was one spouse that cooked more than the other, the one that didn't cook or didn't know how to cook would lose their regular meals. Maybe they don't know how to cook at all and they have to start eating out all the time. So that could impact their health, not to mention their wallet. If one spouse handled the finances and the other one was kind of in the dark regarding that, when they separate, the spouse that didn't handle the finances might not know how to proceed. And then, of course, there's aspects of child rearing that are impacted by a divorce. So that means parents need to split the schedule up with the children so they're not seeing their children all the time. Even if that means the kids are just leaving for the weekend, it's still less time with the kids. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about disability and what the secondary losses can look like there. Obviously, disabilities are different for everybody and they take different forms, so I'm just going to try to focus on a couple different ones and speak in general terms. We'll take later onset disabilities as examples rather than ones that people are born with: a stroke, a traumatic brain injury, or a loss of the use of one or more of a person's limbs. Secondary losses are obviously loss of mobility, a change in identity from being an able-bodied person to a disabled person or impaired person, or someone might be changing from a very active person to somebody who has become bedridden. A loss of income or ability to work, loss of friendship and social engagements, memory and other cognitive functions, and safety. As a third example, I will talk about death as the primary loss. The secondary losses here might seem a little more obvious. You have lost the entire person, so there's tons of secondary losses that can come with that person not being present anymore. But I want to bring in the loss of the assumptive world into this particular example, especially in the case of a child passing away or somebody dying young and unexpectedly, such as the case with accidental deaths, overdoses, suicide. Most people assume that death happens late in life when somebody's lived their whole life and they're elderly. They start losing their physical mobility and things like that in old age naturally. So when somebody dies suddenly, our assumptions are messed with, and that can be jarring. So in the case of death, One of the secondary losses can be loss of the assumptive world. And for spouses of the deceased, all the secondary losses that I mentioned for divorce come up. So, like financial stability, maybe housing could be impacted, safety and security, as I mentioned, social connections that they had. Maybe they don't go to the in laws' family celebrations anymore for like birthdays and holidays. And I think you get the idea, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But circling back to ambiguous loss and disenfranchised grief, secondary losses like disenfranchised grief are not often recognized by society. For example, there's no funeral when you lose your job or you lose some of your mobility, yet you're still grieving those losses deeply. And the community isn't going to bake you a casserole because you got a divorce. Yet the marriage might have lasted over half of your life and you don't know who you are if you're not married to that person anymore, or how to proceed as a newly single person. Maybe you can think of a time when you've had a major loss in your life. What secondary losses did you experience? Leave a comment down below. Don't be a stranger. Maybe we can all help each other through these unrecognized secondary losses. Because you are not alone. Everybody on the face of this earth has had some kind of loss. And you might be surprised that somebody else is experiencing something and surviving something similar to you. And I talk a lot, so I want to hear what someone else has to say for a change. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for more, check out this video next, or I'll see you in the comments. See you next time.